Hello and welcome back to Tools for Sparks, where today we are doing the ultimate Apprentice toolkit. I have for a while been meaning to do a bit of a loadout with my tools because I've been building up a huge tool collection over the last few years, and at the moment I've got some new tool bags that I want to kind of load out, and I thought it'd just be a good opportunity for me to go through my entire toolkit, show you guys what my toolkit is made of, but then talk to you from experience about the tools that I think are the best for apprentices. If you've got a limited budget, if you're just getting started, which tools are the absolute essentials for apprentices? That's what we're going to talk about today. So here's my current tool pouch, and it's just too full. I need to thin it down, but then also in here I have a huge heap of other tools, hand tools, bits and pieces. Now I tend to build things up because of Tools for Sparks. I buy tools, I review them, and then sometimes I don't actually use them very often, which is why we do giveaways on our Instagram page, by the way, if you're not following us yet on Instagram. So what I'm going to do is just unload all of this onto the table, sort through it, and then I'm going to pick out the top 10 tools that I think are important for apprentices to have. Let's go. There's going to be some gems in here that I've probably completely forgotten that I actually have as well, so. Okay. I didn't quite realise what a task this was going to be. I'm going to pick through these and I'm going to talk to you about the things that I think are absolutely essential if you're an apprentice. And I'm just going to go with the most obvious ones first. Number one, a hammer. If you're an apprentice, electrician, or probably apprentice in most trades, to be honest, you're going to need a hammer. Now this is probably one of the most expensive hammers on the market, so you might not be flush with cash and be able to buy one of these, but we have done a cheap versus expensive video where I actually found that you can buy this hammer for a few quid and it will do a reasonably good job. As always, with all of our tools videos, there's links below where you can get access to all of these tools. However, if you do have some money to spend, these two, the Ultraforce and the Weha hammers, they're basically the same, just a different color. They are really good hammers. In my opinion, they're worth the money, but they are about 50 quid each. So hammer is a definite, you need it, it's going in the Apprentice toolkit. And what I'm going to do is use this, because I think this is a nice size for a toolkit. I'm going to use this for our Apprentice toolkit. I'm going to slide it in there. Now this is a Vito Pro Pack TP4B. It's a tool pouch. What I like about it, other than the fact that it falls over if it's not balanced weight-wise, is it's got a hard bottom here. You've got pouches for all your different tools. So you can put screwdrivers, cutters, all your basic stuff will go in there. Number one, hammer. What's next? I would say, now this is controversial, it's got to be either side cutters or croppers, right? A lot of electricians swear by croppers. They say that they never use side cutters. Personally, I grew up on side cutters. That was my go-to cable stripping tool and cable cutting tool when I was an apprentice. And as a Sparky, I'll never go anywhere without a pair of side cutters. Now these are the nicest ones probably that exist. They are Nipex, really good quality, 1000-volt VDE insulated handles, and they're just really nice to work with. They're a nice size as well. If I had to choose between these two, it's difficult because I do use croppers quite a lot now. You know what, I'm going to go with croppers as my bonus add to the tool bag. I think that they are very useful in certain situations. Good for cutting tails, for example. So we're going to go with both side cutters and croppers. What is next? You can't do any electrical work without a good set of screwdrivers, right? And over the years, I have tried so many different screwdrivers. I think one of the first screwdriver sets that I ever bought was actually the Vera or Wera, depending on how you pronounce it. This set, believe it or not, this is the actual original. I don't think I've got all the rest of the handles, but basically it's an interchangeable screwdriver set, which is really nice. I think I've made a review video here on Tools for Sparks about it, and essentially it's got a wrap with loads of different handles in, and you can swap handles depending on what screwdriver you need at any one time. They just click in like that. It's really nice. I just use this as my meter box key now, but that set is a good set. The other option, which is a bit more budget, that I have used and I think are reasonably good, are these Klein Tools screwdrivers. Now I don't have that many left. I must admit that they do have a habit of breaking. The PZ1s, they do have a habit of snapping, a little bit brittle, but they're quite ergonomic, they're nice to work with. Again, I've done a review video on these, so there'll be a link in the description for that. That's a good option. If you want to go something really cheap, there's the Milwaukee set. I do actually use that fairly often from day to day. Not quite as ergonomic as some of the others, but they seem to be reasonably good quality. And these ones I really like. These are the Boddington screwdrivers, and I think they're very expensive, but they are really, really nice. So a screwdriver set of your choice, depending on your budget, that is going to go in the bag. And you might wonder, well, what screwdrivers do I need? You're definitely going to need a PZ2. That's really important. That's the screwdriver that is going to enable you to install most standard posi head screws, and certainly the screws for circuit breakers and things like that. You're going to be using this one a lot. Then a large flathead screwdriver comes in handy too, and then a smaller flathead screwdriver, or what we might call a terminal screwdriver. Something a little bit smaller like this size is probably good. So this is actually a 0.6 by 3.5 blade. This one's slightly bigger. This is 0.6 by 4.5. The 3.5 and the 4.5 refers to the width of the blade there. So I think 3.5 width is pretty much perfect for most terminals in light switches, sockets, etc. The 4.5 will work for larger things like sockets. But yeah, good terminal screwdriver, good PZ2 and a big flat. That's pretty much all you need, to be honest. So we've got our screwdrivers, we've got our cutters, we've got our hammer. What else is essential? I'm going to say this, head torch. Every apprentice needs a good head torch, because inevitably you're going to be crawling around in dark lofts, cupboards where there's no light. You're going to be sent in all sorts of crawl spaces that you probably don't really want to go into, but it's part of the life of an electrician. You need a good head torch. Now, this is a basic, quite cheap one. It'll work with just AAA batteries. These are both from Unilite. This is a more high-end one. It's got rechargeable battery, chargeable with USB-C. They're both pretty reasonably priced. I think this is about £100. This is about £30 or £40, so depending on your budget. And you can get 25% off all Unilite products using a code that we've got in the description below. So if you want to get yourself a little bit of a bargain on a head torch, then get one of these. Some people might use their phone torches, but most people have got fairly decent phones that are worth quite a lot of money, and you just don't want your phone falling over and smashing, or you don't want to drain your battery. So get yourself a decent head torch, and that means that you can work with both hands rather than trying to fumble around with one hand with your phone. You can work with both hands. You've got a good amount of light, and you can work safely. Very bright, as you can see. It's got different brightness settings as well. And that is going into my tool pouch. Now it starts to get difficult, because these are the things that you're going to use the most, but there are a few other things that you do also need which are really important. And probably the most important is going to be one of these, a voltage tester. In order to work safely, you're going to need to be able to test to prove stuff is dead before you start working on it. So you're going to need one of these and a lockout kit ideally, so that you can test, prove dead, lock off and safely isolate. And I will leave a link below to an article all about safe isolation. We've done videos showing the whole safe isolation procedure on Artisan Electrics channel. But this one is the one that we get for our apprentices. It's cheap, it's good quality. I've been using this for several years now, and it hasn't failed me, and it's just a good way to test and prove what is dead with a compliant GS38 set of test leads. So that's there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me know in the comments what you would put in the tool bag. What is your essential if you're an apprentice or if you're an experienced electrician? I'd love to know your thoughts. So this is the next choice for me. This is a knife. Now, there's different options for knives, as you'll see from my toolkit here. You might go with an insulated knife like this Boddington's knife. It's quite safe as well because it's got a curved blade. Good for stripping the outer sheath of things like armoured cables, etc. But to be honest, I haven't really used this very much. I don't find it to be that practical. Also, because it's got a fixed blade, the blade goes blunt. I'm not sure how easy it is to sharpen it again. So it could be quite costly if you have to throw it away and get a new one when the blade is blunt. On the other hand, you've got multi-tools like this. This is a Leatherman Surge. I've had this for a few years. This has got multiple different knives on it. And it's quite a handy tool. I used to like having this on site just for those moments where you need a one-off tool and you don't want to go all the way back to the van just to get that one tool. You've kind of got pretty much everything you need in here. Again, this is not cheap. This is a nice addition to your toolkit if you're experienced and you've started to earn a decent wage and you want to splurge something. But for me, this is probably the ultimate choice when it comes to knives. This is a Stanley Quick Slide, and it is what it says on the tin. So it's very well designed, I think. It's got interchangeable Stanley blades. So you just lift this clip here, you slide the Stanley blade out. I do need to get replacement blades because it's a bit scuzzy now. But essentially you can have a pack of Stanley blades and it means you've always got a nice sharp blade on your knife, which is important. It helps to avoid brute force injury trying to cut cables with a knife that is not sharp enough. Also, it's safe because you can slide the blade away and then it's completely concealed, safe. And this belt clip is what really makes it nice for me. You can clip it on your tool bag like that, or you can just clip it on your belt or in your trouser pocket. It's a really nice option and it's cheap. I think it's about a tenner, plus you buy a pack of blades, so very reasonably priced and a very important addition to your toolkit because there's always going to be stuff you're going to need to cut, whether it's unpackaging things, whether it's stripping the outer sheath of armoured cables, stuff like that. Knife is very important. What's next? Well, I guess along with a knife, you're probably going to need one of these. Now, miniature hacksaw used to always be an essential part of an apprentice toolkit, but in recent years, modern, exciting upgrades have happened, like the CK armour slice, for example. When I did my apprenticeship, this is all we used to strip an armoured cable. But nowadays, you've got these fancy tools like the CK armour slice or the Knipex TubeBuddy that you can use to speed up stripping armoured cables. But they're expensive and they take a certain knack to get used to actually using them. This is very simple. It does what it says on the tin. Easy to replace the blades. You just push it like that, pull the blade out, put a new one in. It's literally a few pounds and it'll allow you to cut armoured cables of quite a thickness, strip the outside, cut back the armouring. That and a knife and one other tool are pretty much all you need to strip, gland and terminate steel wire armoured cables, which for most electricians, unless you're only doing first fix electrics on domestic, you're probably going to come across steel wire armoured cable at some point and going to need to terminate it. So that's a nice little addition to my apprentice kit. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 more tools to go. So I think the next one has to be these. This is a pair of water pump pliers. These are the Knipex Cobras, but I've also got an Irwin vice grip. Very similar thing, slightly different size. These are good for tightening and loosening nuts, bolts, but I've also always used these for doing armoured glands. Now, I know that people say you shouldn't use these to do armoured glands, you should use the ones that don't have any teeth, so they don't kind of burr up the brass on the armoured gland. I've always managed to terminate steel or armoured cables with a couple of these, a hacksaw and a knife. So if you're looking for a basic cheap set of tools for terminating armoureds, a set of these could be really good. Now Knipex do different versions. They do insulated versions, they do the teethless versions, they do different sizes. You can even get the teeny tiny little ones that are really cute. But in general, you're definitely going to need a pair of water pump pliers to get you out of trouble in various different situations, really. So that's number 8. Okay, so here's a bit of a controversial one, and it depends what kind of work you're doing. But if you're doing a lot of domestic electrical work, this is a very cheap tool that can get you out of trouble. This is called a rethreading tool, and it basically allows you to redo the threads on the lugs of the back boxes, the metal back boxes that are used in houses. You will experience it at some point where you undo a socket face to test it. Maybe you're doing an EICR or whatever, then you try and screw the socket face back and the screws are just spinning, and it's so annoying. And you don't want to replace the whole back box. So what you can do is you get one of these, you screw it into the thread in the lug on the back box, and it will redo the thread and allow you to get a new screw in. It's a very cheap, small tool that fits anywhere in your tool bag like this, and it can get you out of trouble. So I think that's number 9 for me. So then finally, and this is a hard choice really, for me it's going to be a pair of long nose pliers, or you might say snipe nose pliers. These are really handy for gripping wires in the back of consumer units, for example, to lift out of breakers, maneuver things in tight spaces, hold on to little nuts that are, you know, to tighten things up, etc. It's just quite a versatile tool that can get you out of trouble in certain situations. Knipex do them. Again, Knipex is probably the best quality, but you can get cheaper versions elsewhere. You can get insulated, non-insulated versions, and just make sure you oil them up every so often because they do get a bit stiff. Mine's a little bit stiff there. It needs a bit of WD-40 to clean it up. But great little tool, definitely gets you out of trouble in a lot of situations. There we are. So in our tool pouch, we have our top 10 tools for apprentices, according to me. Now you might disagree because you might be doing different types of work. Obviously at Artisan Electrics, we're mostly domestic, so these are reflected in that. But I think in general, this set will get you out of trouble in most basic electrical situations. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Are there other tools that you would add? Would you use a different tool pouch? What are your favorite tools? And if you want to follow us over on Tools for Sparks, we do giveaways over there regularly for apprentices. So if you'd like to be in with a chance to win some new tools every so often, do head over and follow us on there. But either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.